Good morning, and thank you very much for joining us. I am Yori Folarin. Well, it's the second day of the complete lockdown in Abuja, Lagos, and technically speaking, also Ogun as well. And it's the first day of the month. Well, people say Happy New Month and all of that. Well, it is what it is. I guess we all understand here. And this morning, I'm alongside my colleague, senior business correspondent in TVC, Tolu Ogunjobi. Tolu, great to have you on. But it's not exactly a great time for the business sector.
Of course, at this time, looking at the pandemic and the effects globally and even regards to Nigeria, it's not a good time at all. It's a new month. Let's say it plays out in April.
Indeed. And we shall be joined on the program this morning by an expert, Mr. Johnson Chukwu, CEO of Cowrie Assets. He's an economist and a stockbroker. Okay, there you are. Good morning, Johnson. We'll be with you very, very shortly.
Good morning, Uncle Yori.
Okay, sir.
Thank you for having me.
Indeed.
Happy New Month.
Indeed. Thank you very much. We'll be with you. So, Tolu, as I was saying, there's a lockdown generally. The CBN has offered its own, it has a sort of intervention, it's a palliative. It's to the tune of 50 billion naira. But, this was announced last week, but as you were saying to me, actually, there were a number of briefings last week, and you were part of those briefings, and that this 50 billion naira depends on who is looking at it. Some would say, oh, it's impressive. Some would say, well, in the circumstances. But you said it's actually interventions from the authorities is much more than this. The CBN's 50 billion is a part of what is available. Tell us a bit more about that.
Yes, before now, you will notice that the central bank has tried to reposition spending and releasing funds, interventions towards small and medium enterprises. Because the goal of this government, they've tried to shift away from internationals, big companies, and they want the small companies to grow because that's where they can also get more tax. So you see the central bank going about improving lending deposit ratio, LDRs, and all of that. And even at the point, the banks were almost pushed to the edge. They started complaining that we are lending. How sure are we that we're going to get these funds back? Talk of non-performing loans. So the central bank has been on that verge and talking about when they now came about the pandemic. That's the coronavirus, that now it's a global issue. So I think the central bank now saw that we need to double our efforts to make sure that these people don't run out of business and they don't. So that's why they now gave moratorium on loans. They gave extensions, reduced rates of all lendings from the central bank, from the Bank of Agriculture, Bank of Industry. All of those lendings were cut from 9% to 5%. All of this is just to try and make the economy, activate the economy and make sure that it's not just, everything doesn't just go to sleep, because that won't be very good for a country like Nigeria. So in total, it's about 3.5 trillion naira, because the banks also came in with lots of interventions added to the 50 billion released by the Central Bank of Nigeria. Okay. To cushion this effect of the negatives that will fall out from the coronavirus pandemic.
Okay. Okay then. So, Mr. Chukwu, once again, thank you very much for joining us, Mr. John Chukwu, who is of Cowrie's Asset. He's the CEO of Cowrie's Asset. He's an economist and a stockbroker. And if it's all right with you, let's talk about the stock. No, before we go to the stock market, I was wondering if you could explain the TCF, that's the Targeted Credit Facility that the central bank has offered up there. It's a stimulus package. It's said to be for households. It's supposed to be for micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises. And these are the people that have been crying that, look, we are the most vulnerable. Tell us the thinking behind this and how indeed it will work. I mean, it's not exactly a handout, is it?
Come again, Uncle Yori. Your voice is not very clear.
Okay, I'll try.
What's the last part of your question?
Okay, I'll try again. I wanted you to elucidate, if you will, on the TCF, the Targeted Credit Facility of that central bank is talking about. That's 50 billion. That is aimed, that's the targeted part, specifically at micro, small, and medium, sized enterprises. And this is the very set of our population that has been saying, not that it has been saying, that is indeed the most affected by the general shutdown.
Okay, the CBN 50 billion targeted at the private sector, particularly the small, medium-scale enterprises and households that are adversely affected by the coronavirus crisis, is meant to look at those who are the most vulnerable segment of the society. If you look at the guideline for the 50 billion, say that look, it's targeted at the households who have verifiable evidence that they've been adversely affected by the COVID-19 crisis, and then micro, small, and medium scale enterprises. As we all know, most business operators in the country are in that category, the micro, small, and medium scale enterprises. The woman on the street selling pepper or selling tomato belongs to the micro enterprises.
That's right.
The small businesses actually account for the greater portion of our business activities. You know that the large portion of our economy is largely informal. And these are the people who live by the day. They're the people who will be most affected by the sit-at-home order. They're the most who will be affected by the social distancing. They're the people who will be affected by the fact that economic activities have slowed down. So this 50 billion is meant to support them to come out of this crisis or to moderate the impact of the crisis on their businesses and their standard of living.
Okay, I have seen a lot of activity on social media as to how to now access this, because a lot of people will hear that, but it's not really just anybody, is it? It's not, because every Nigerian, in a sense, sort of feels entitled, but this is not really for every Nigerian like that, is it?
I think we're having a problem with the voice. Can you come again, please?
I
They
was
need to adjust the voice.
Okay. I was saying that a lot of common folk, ordinary folk, regular folk like me, these people have been the most, shall we say, active in asking questions. Now, I was saying that what you've just explained, the targeted fund thing, it's not exactly a handout. There still are processes. There are ways and means and procedures. So it's not as if it's a handout, is it?
Well, I think it will eventually have to be a handout like we are seeing in other countries. I don't think it's supposed to be loans. It should be grants. But in the case, on a lighter note, Uncle Yori, you are not part of those affected. You are not part of those in the category of those to benefit from this, be it handout, be it loan. But I think all things being equal, it should be handout because you are looking at people who do not have the wherewithal to survive the severe economic impact of COVID-19. And they are saying, what do we do to moderate the impact on them? Like I did mention, these are people who live by the day and they earn their income on a daily basis. So if you expect them to pay you back, it will be a pipe dream. I think the central bank has to factor this as a handout. And I think that's why it should actually come from the federal government. It should be a physical support just like you are seeing in other countries. I mean, if you go to a place like Britain, the United Kingdom government is underwriting 80% of the wage bill of all workers in that country,
Okay.
saying that companies do not have to bear 80% of those wage bills. It's a grant. The US government is giving out 1,200 to every single individual who is working, every family that is working affected, and then that is earning less than say $5,000 per annum. And for couples earning less than $150,000 per annum, they are giving them $2,400 as grants. And even unemployed people are getting as much as $600 per week as unemployment allowance from the federal government in addition to what they are getting from their individual states in the US. So Nigeria should not be an exception. Okay. The most vulnerable have to be supported at this point in time. And I believe that 50 billion is earmarked for the most vulnerable and should go to them as grant and not as loan.
Oh, okay then. Well, hopefully CBN is listening, and because in its guidelines, as you know, it actually laid out how it shall be repaid. There shall be moratorium. It shall be on a monthly basis. It shall be at a reduced interest rate. So that's perhaps is not the way they are thinking right now. But again, as you are saying, for contributing experiences from other areas in the world, maybe, because again, the guidelines do say that it shall be continually updated as there is a need for it. Now let me switch to the stock market now, and as I introduce you as an economist and a stockbroker, these are terrible times in the stock market, right?
Yes, the stock market, as we know, is a barometer for measuring the health and the economic outlook of any society. Today, the economic outlook is very weak or negative, not just in Nigeria, but globally. We've seen global stock markets suffer severe losses in the past couple of weeks, and Nigeria is not an exception. Nigerian economy is going through some difficulties. When you buy shares, you are buying into a future stream of cash flow of that company. So if the outlook is that economic activities will dampen and companies will not make so much profit, it's expected that their stock prices will reflect the fact that they're not going to make so much profit. So the capital market is suffering, just like every other sector of the economy is suffering, not just in Nigeria, but globally. We are seeing exit of foreign portfolio investors. We are seeing Nigerians, and remember, Okuyori, that at periods of uncertainty, people want to hold back their cash. Some people are selling to hold cash. As you know, there's a 2-week lockdown in Lagos, Abuja, and Ogun State. People may want to sell their shares so they can hold cash and buy food stuff for this period of time. So it is not unexpected that every equity market, every capital market will suffer losses at periods like this. It's happening in US, it's happening in Germany, it's happening in UK, it's happening in Japan, it's happening in Russia. Every stock market has suffered some level of bleeding in the past couple of weeks.
Is there a sort of a silver lining to all of this in the stock market? Because we also hear experts say that savvy investors will take advantage of this opportunity because premium stocks that might have been out of reach before would now suddenly be within reach if people are hoping to, keep for the long term.
Absolutely. In every difficult period, in every period of upheaval, there are also opportunities that are created. In the capital market, there are stocks that have been so badly affected that they are currently trading below their intrinsic net worth. So for such stocks, anybody who has the financial resource to go in and hold out for the next couple of months, or maybe for one year or 2 years, this is an opportunity for you to go do what you call bargain hunting. That is going to buy stock that are actually greatly undervalued. There are several of such stocks in the market today. So if you have money, like I know you have, and you, Tolu, it's time for you people to go into the market,
business guy,
and take positions. Even in periods of war, it creates opportunities. Similarly, in the capital market, in the capital market, any other market, there are some stocks that have actually suffered severe losses and are good opportunities for anybody to pick.
Now, of course, oil being a major revenue earner for the country, that itself is depressed at the moment, and it's like, funnily enough, no pun intended, it's adding fuel to this particular fire because all our calculations, have been hit for 6.
Well, nobody expected the current COVID-19 at the beginning of this year. I mean, though it was there in China, it was supposed to be a very small issue. I mean, if you recall, even the US president dismissed it with a wave of hands. Yes. And nobody could have imagined that the whole world will go into what I call an unforeseen war. It looks like aliens from another planet have attacked the whole Earth, and every country is running for cover. Unfortunately, we can't fight back. We can only run to our homes. We are now, it's like our homes are now bomb shelters, where we now need to run away from this attack. So nobody could have imagined this. Predictions about global economic performance in 2020 did not factor in the current global health crisis. So it is impossible for you to see anybody who could have predicted the current situation. All forecasts were based on normal economic activities, but that have been jumped by the current situation.
what is your prediction, going back to the stock market now, as to how long this, is it a bear situation? It's a bearish situation?
Bearish, yes.
This bearish situation is going to last. I mean, I know you're not in the business of prophecies, but still, you are an expert. What's the economic prediction? How long is this quote-unquote winter going to last?
I'm happy that you said I'm not in the business of prediction, predicting the future. There is a joke on social media about pastors who have predicted the end of COVID-19. So the first thing is that nobody can say for sure how long this health crisis will last. That's the starting point. The market will only recover after the health crisis has been put behind us. And after that, a lot will now depend on the policies of the government to stimulate economic recovery. I believe, for instance, that some of the measures being taken today are to moderate the impact of COVID-19 on citizens, to restart economic activity, take another level of stimulus. So, and I believe countries, depending on how quickly they respond, will determine how fast they come out of, or the market will recover. I hope that the government of the country will stimulate economic activity immediately this crisis ends. And let me explain this to you what I mean.
Sure.
Take, for instance, you're talking of giving handouts to families and small businesses so they can survive. You still have to come back to those businesses that have suffered severe losses that will require some level of stimulus to restart their operation. Take, for instance, the airline business. Most of them have been grounded, or virtually all their fleet have been grounded. They are paying lease rental on some of those aircraft. They are paying their crew. So some of them may run completely out of cash by the time this crisis ends. So they require capital injection. Countries like the US and England are already making arrangements to re-stimulate economic activities. We must also provide for that, so that beyond the 1 trillion naira that the central bank has earmarked and the moratorium they want to give to those who have borrowed from the central bank intervention windows, we should also look at those businesses that are suffering severe bleeding of cash. Companies are struggling to pay salaries, and I don't know how long this will last. So you need to create some stimulus, and that is key to the quick economic recovery or fast economic recovery. So how quickly the equity market will bounce back will depend on the measures we take to restart economic activities and to ensure that the effect of this COVID-19 does not linger in our society.
Indeed. Mr. Chukwu, you were telling us stories of other economic zones and their efforts, outright grants to their citizens. And of course, we would wish that we could get the same here. But this leads to the question of affordability. What is your opinion as to the extent to which Nigeria can afford this similar kind of gestures?
Okay, let me start from a common saying in my village, they say that a short woman will put her hand on her husband according to the length of her hand. So the extent to which the government of Nigeria can intervene in stimulating economic recovery, it depends on our level of economic resource. Unfortunately, it's quite weak at this point in time. We do not have enough reserve. We do not have the revenue base that some of these countries have. But we still have to, within our little resource, try to do something. The first thing is to identify the sector that are most adversely affected. And then could actually create, it might be soft loans or zero interest loan from an intervention from the central bank to those sectors. The such money will be paid back over some time. Because remember what someone like Barack Obama did, how he supported the automobile industry and several of the US industries to come out of the global economic crisis of 2007-2008. It's basically by granting them soft loans. Those loans had to be paid back when their cash flow improved. I think the central bank can still accommodate that to some extent. It's not all industries that have been evenly affected. Some industries will be badly affected, like I mentioned, the aviation industry,
yes,
the hospitality industry. These industries have suffered direct and unmitigated impact of this COVID-19 crisis. We need to get them back into business so that they can resume employing people. We don't have the wherewithal to do a 2 trillion $2 trillion intervention that the US did. Of course, $2 trillion is about 5 times of our GDP. So that's completely beyond our capacity. But within our little resources, we need to identify those who are the most affected, and we could grant them interest-free loan, 5-year loans, and expect that they will trade out of their situation within the next 5 years and pay back to the national treasury. But we just have to do something within the limit of our resources.
Okay. One final question, I think one that every Nigerian can relate to. As we all have to maintain this social distancing and in some states stay at home, energy, power supply is going to be, crucial, much more so than before. Before, people used to go out to work, go out to their businesses, and they were enjoying power from there. Now people must necessarily stay at home. There are ideas that might our energy bills be, written off. In other words, government might find a way to pay for it. How realistic do you think that is, and indeed how doable?
Okay, for me, the problem is not even our energy bill being written off by the government. The problem is to even have the power supply.
In the first place.
I've been at home for the past 36 hours. And I can tell you, I've not had power for more than 12 hours of the 36 hours. If I have power, and the issue is the payment for the power, it's a different thing entirely. The problem is that people are living in heat or running generators, and unfortunately, you can't really go out now and buy diesel. A lot of families cannot even afford to go and buy the fuel that they need to power their generator where they are home. And this is the hot season. The weather is quite hot in Lagos and Abuja, and I'm sure Ogun State. So the first thing is, what does the government need to do to encourage the power generation company, the power distribution companies, and the power transmission company to provide us power within this period of lockdown when we are all imprisoned in our homes? It's after when we are dealt with that, we've been talking about how can we pay the bill. The power is not even the topics of the bill. But I think beyond the issue of power supply or underwriting the cost of energy supply to the homes, there are also more pressing issues. There are a lot of vulnerable families out there who cannot afford to stay at home for 2 days without any income. The first thing is, how do we reach out to them? Let's even start from these most vulnerable people. The man who is a hawker of the street who cannot live a single day without any income, and you have locked them in for 2 days, they are going to stay here for 14 days. I can tell you that it will be difficult for them to survive for 14 days. Let's find ways of delivering handouts. Some countries are saying, look, we'll deliver homes to you at your door, the doorstep of your house. You don't need to come out. And I believe we should have using some of the intervention mechanisms that we adopted in the past, like the trader money, the market money, and other SIP schemes to reach out to these most vulnerable. At the minimum, let's use their phone recharge card amounts, monthly recharge card, and determine those who are most vulnerable. Those who buy recharge card of 20 naira, 100 naira, the most vulnerable. Let's transfer money to them through their phones, and that will help them go to a payment center and cash that money and use it to buy food stuff. If we don't do that, you may end up losing more people from hunger than the number of people you lose from COVID-19.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Johnson Chukwu, CEO, Cowrie Assets, economist and stockbroker. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you, sir.
All right, then. So, Tolu, there we have it. People are hearing the news. The world has become a global village. As Mr. Chukwu was just saying, there are governments that are, just saying that, no, we're looking out for our people. And we do know that, the government is looking out for its people too. That is us, although Mr. Johnson removed you strategically from among those that number, that you people can get along. But jokes apart, it's going to be tough, isn't it?
Yeah, of course,
going to be tough.
It's going to be tough because if we look at economic growth with Nigeria, talking about gross domestic product between late 2019 and what we have now, we've been growing between 2% and 2.2, 2.3%. And obviously our population is growing beyond that. So definitely every day people keep slipping into poverty. the poverty line, people get more poor, people get poorer by the day if we are to follow those figures. So clearly there's a problem. So government has been trying to work on that, and hopefully we got out of recession. We're getting the economy back to work,
and then COVID-19
hits. So government has been trying. We're trying at that very point to come in to cushion the effect one way or the other, but they can't do more than what they can. Like what he said, in that the wife will definitely use her hand to whatever. What is mine is mine.
Yes.
I have to manage what I have.
There you go.
How do they say that you cut your clothes according to your cloth, not your size this time around, is what you have. So I think government, one way or the other, and that's why I go back to the issue of telling banks to lend. One way or the other, the banks have always focused on government equities, government instruments like bonds, treasury bills. That's where they put monies, and you see banks coming with billions of naira interest at the end of the year. But the government said, no, don't do all of this anymore. Put this money into the real sector. Let those trading have this money. Let those moving around have this money. That's one focus of this administration. Another thing I noticed from this administration is setting up some very important committees, like the one that was just set up, headed by the vice president. That's the sustainability committee. That's to look at the effects of COVID-19 and to look at what can be done by government to ameliorate and to address this ugly trend. Yes, it's not looking very good. And with Nigerian factor coupled with what we face as a country, oil is the mainstay of this economy. We are yet to diversify. We've been talking about diversification, but we have not diversified.
And while we're working at that, because
this comes up again,
nobody wants the oil anymore.
So it's like going back to square one, because we're talking about almost $20 per barrel. Even our budget was predicated on $57 per barrel. Now the minister has brought it down to $30. 1.5 trillion naira has been cut from the budget, which was above 10 trillion naira before now. All of this is to accommodate and face the reality of time. But in real terms, a lot still needs to be done. And that comes to the issue of the monetary side and the fiscal side coming together. A lot has been done by the monetary side. The central bank, the bankers committee, all of them come together to always look for ways to address all of these issues. But I think there needs to be a synergy, a synergy at this time that will make things work better than what we used to have. Because if they don't come together and implement policies that will be all-inclusive, at this moment we need policies that will be all-inclusive. To talk about the most vulnerable people too, we see a state like Lagos coming up with food centers where people can go pick up rice, pick up gari, and all of that. And I think that is functional because I see on social media people going to pick it up. I see local governments like where we are in, people going to pick up this food stuff. So I don't think government has really left everything like, you guys should go and face the COVID-19 by your... No, I don't think it's...
Certainly not in Lagos.
No, not at all.
And I'm sure other states are watching.
Yeah, so I say like, yes, it's day 2. Let's say it moves on as we move to day 3, day 4, day 5, before we get to day 14. But I pray Lagosians and Nigerians have that patience to be able to manage for 14 days.
Well, and it's interesting where you landed there, hoping that they have the patience to manage, because it's like we don't really have a choice on this. Yes, if people understand the issue. It's a health issue.
Yes.
It is when you are healthy that you can go about your business, and the last thing government, or indeed you yourself as the individual, wants is to be exposed to infection by this I don't know if one could call it a plague, certainly a pandemic. But the way people were engaging, I was watching Ivy's report yesterday, and the police were explaining how they had to stop people. People wanted to come out. Yeah, I understand it's very unusual for us in Lagos, indeed around the world, we're social animals. But hopefully people will get that they have to do everything that they can to default to the side of obeying instructions, directives. Please don't move about, not because we're exerting power, but because you need to be safe, and you're not safe, or at least at the safest, if you are moving about. I think that's the one thing, going back to the health aspect to all of this, that people have to internalize.
It's very important that we adhere to social distancing at this time. We watch international channels and we see what's happening in America, in the UK.
Completely.
People are really complying. You even have some funny videos where you see some countries where people have to be flogged to comply.
Terrible.
India and some others. I think I saw something in Italy, and people have to be forced to comply because...
We hope it doesn't get to that.
No, we hope it doesn't.
I got to go to a quick break now, but stay with us, please, and we'll be right back. We'll include your calls as well as some reports. welcome back. This morning on TVC, and it's in the midst of this pandemic that has taken the whole world by surprise. Mr. Johnson Chukwu, an economist and stockbroker, was reacting to how we can survive in this, lockdown. And our reporter, Lara Afolayan, has also been looking at the situation from the point of view of economists between Lagos and Abuja.
Of the Federal Ministry of Health.
The much-awaited reaction from the president on the COVID-19 pandemic finally came with some economic palliatives. A 3-month moratorium is now to be given for loans obtained under the Trader Money, Market Money and Farmer Money schemes. This also applies to loans obtained from the Bank of Industry, Bank of Agriculture and the Nigerian Export-Import Bank.
What I want to see happen is a situation where the implementation takes into account the fact that there are people too that are not captured in these schemes, and that's why the issue of moratorium on federal government funded loans should go beyond just the people that have taken federal government loans. A lot of SMEs have taken loans at this point in time, and if it is possible to for the banks, for the central bank to allow the banks renegotiate some of these loans.
Talks of a planned 30,000 naira bailout for Nigerians have recently been dismissed by government, but the society's most vulnerable are to get immediate cash payment of 2 months conditional cash transfers.
It's not possible for government to pay even 5,000 per individual in this country today. It's not possible, really, because we don't have that kind of money. So we need to talk about things that are possible for government to do. We need to look inwards and see all those aspects of our fiscal expenditure we need to cut down right now, and drastically too.
Even the idea of giving 30,000 to everybody, that every Nigerian, again, is not. I don't think is feasible. It's not feasible because you don't have the data. Even if you say the money is for those that have BVN, okay. Again, there are a lot of Nigerians too that are not, financially included.
Prices of food items have since skyrocketed since the 14-day lockdown was announced for the FCD and 2 other states. So little is now bought with so much money in the markets. Buyers are appealing to government for assistance to cushion the effects of soaring food prices on their finances.
I bought onions just now. I used to buy 800, 900, but today is 1.2. The pepper, they told me 1.5 for baskets. Something I buy 1,000 naira before.
We expect our government to do something. Not that they will ask us to close markets, to do this, to do that, not to come out. Why people are dying in hunger?
The experts now suggest ways these interventions could be made to impact the likes of these buyers.
Now, this is a time to make a lot of sacrifices. If there are amounts called security votes, today we can call it emergency votes, and move the whole of that money into creating palliatives for the people of that particular state. The problem we're having in the country is the fact that everything, we expect the federal government to deal with it.
The president also directed the country's development finance institutions to negotiate concessions with their development partners to ease the repayment of loans by local beneficiaries. Lara Afolayan, TVC News, Abuja.
And our appreciation to Lara, the report went out first earlier than this. Now, one of the points that came out of that report is what a lot of Nigerians already know, that prices have begun to react to this situation by going up. Now, I don't know if it's actually economics that kicked in, or it is just human nature. People have not bought new stocks. By the time this hit, you already had your stocks. So it's people have spoken of man's inhumanity to man. So what do you think, Tolu? Do you think it's economics that kicked in, that the supply was tighter and it was more expensive, is why this is being transferred onto the consumer? Or is it this whole idea of the Nigerian is going to make a buck out of any situation he sees?
I need to be blunt here. That's the way we are in Nigeria. I think we take advantage of situations most times. We look at what happened immediately when COVID came, when the first index case was reported. a sanitizer that was sold for 400 naira sold for as much as 5,000 naira.
Yes.
If not for the FCCPC,
Yes.
that had to come in. So people had to,
and it was across the board.
Across the
Even
board.
the big pharmacies, the so-called
Yes.
respectable ones,
Yes.
they all joined in this almost like profiteering.
They took advantage of it. So I think we really need to be human and take charge of our economy and let people understand that we should be our brother's keeper.
Indeed.
We should.
Let me join Mazi Okoroafo in Arochukwu. Good morning, Mazi.
Good morning, Mr. Yori. Good morning, I guess, in the studio.
Thank you for coming in.
Mr. Yori, you see, to me, what we have, thank God for what the federal government said. But the question is, if you check around, look at what the economists are saying. Nigeria, we don't have good database. But if we have a good database, all this issue of money market, money, like that, it's good. And if you look around, the Nigerian graduates who are doing all this job, what is happening? Many of them, some of them are still hanging. Now the question is, how do we move? If IMF will say they are moving towards recession, IMF, they are moving towards recession, what should the Nigerian government do? Are they doing Nigeria as a country? We have already diversified our agriculture, harness our natural resources in all the states. All this issue of problem of food and so on. If we have excess, ask ourselves, how many state governments, I keep Lagos a state, because Lagos is moving. Honestly speaking, kudos to Lagos government, they are trying. Now, if other states borrowed from Lagos as far as 3 weeks ago, we will not complain. Even if we lock down for 1 month, 2 months, Nigeria will accept it. But the question, how do we move forward? After these 2 weeks, what next? Will Nigerian people stay at home, or will government extend it? The question is, the government will extend it because, as said on this program, a month ago or just when World Health Organization said Africa have to be very careful because between July and August, the issue of a COVID pandemic will be very, very bad to Africa. But I pray it will not happen because if it happens, the medical facilities in Africa is not there. Like you said, like the other is told us there about 7 steps to follow. If Nigerians can keep it, a religious organization, that is the main target. If they can maintain it, I bet you people will come and go on the phone with that. And the issue of database, like I rightly said, 6,000 they say they are looking for. And if we have that database, we could have traced all those people faster. And that could have helped Nigeria to protect all those who they said that we cannot see them. But my own answer, my question is, Nigeria should do what? Speak to the person, stay at home. Just manage that. This is time for fasting period. But it 12 days that will be Easter.
Mazi, I think Mazi has gone. Okay, I was going to ask him how well people are doing in Arochukwu regarding the whole matter of social distancing.
Quickly, so something came to me. You see, today is April 1st, and because of the situation, Nigerians have actually forgotten that the government has also done something to actually reduce pressure one way or the other. Fuel price is now 123 naira 50 kobo.
Down from 125.
From 145 to 125, and it's 123 naira 50 kobo. And it's going to be a monthly thing by the PPPRA. Because as long as the price of crude continues to dwindle, we don't refine. So we still have that problem. So we're still going to pay all of the duties, all of the, but at the end of the day, the price will still reduce. And that's part of what government is trying to do to cushion the effect. Though some are saying that, yes, if you look at price of crude is down more than 50%, but the price of fuel is not down almost 50%.
Yes.
That's also left for an economics to
sort of explain.
to calculate and explain. But at least you see a move by government to say, okay, one way or the other, let's look for ways to cushion this effect. But I know that more can be done. Proper planning and data management is something that we need to look at in this part of the world. We've not been doing that so very well. BVN was supposed to address part of that. That's the bank verification number. But many people didn't key into it. I see people asking me now, artisans saying, oh, we hear government want to pay money. I don't have an account. Oh, we hear government want to pay money. I don't have an account. Oh. So everybody is now getting to realize that
yes,
you need to have an account.
One moment, please. He's in Magodo. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Mr. Morning to your guest.
Sure. Well, it's my colleague, actually, Tolu Gunjobi.
Okay, your colleague, yes, I thought as well. I want to say good morning to you. Mr. Ray, now, when you look at the situation of this COVID-19, I feel a lot of people for the world, most especially my country, Nigeria, because as we speak now, sorry, we are not having enough testing in the country. That is why you are still seeing the number very low. And we have another major problem, contact tracing. That is why you are seeing the figures very, very low. That is simple truth. Because these individuals who are mixed up with different people, we are talking of tracing over 6,000 people. And these 6,000 individuals we are talking about now, these people are mixing up with different Nigerians on daily basis. We don't even know their whereabouts. So these are serious issues that might emerge very soon. That is why you have what the World Health Organization talked about Africa, what might happen in future. And the major problem is that we have no good health system to withstand this crisis when this crisis will come up. If countries like US, UK, France, and others are struggling seriously, then you can just imagine what can happen when such a situation happens, which I pray it never happens. On the issues of the economy, Mr. Ari, I'm one person who is praying that the price of crude oil will go down to $5. Because when this government came on board, we talked about issues of diversification of our economy. As I speak to you, Mr. Ari, they've not done enough as far as I'm concerned. We still depend on oil, crude oil money for more than 90% of the revenue we expect. How can we continue like that? I pray, as far as I'm concerned, that the crude oil should go down as low as $5. Then we will now know that we need to wake up our slumber and do things right. This same government talked about issues of making our refineries work. As we speak, no single new refinery has been built. Even the previous ones we have, they are not working, they are not functioning. What kind of society are we living? We are talking about palliative now. You hear them saying, no money, no money, no money. Then you want to lock down people in their homes, and you think you will not provide for their needs, and you think they will remain at home. Let's see how that will be possible.
Okay, Ehis. Thanks for calling in.
I would have loved to react to...
But we have to go back to the situation that, look, at the end of the day, whereas we hear, we understand, but we're not doing, it's not government that's being done a favor by, you see, if people were to understand or take it from the point of view, theoretical at least at this stage, that going out there simply exposes you potentially to being infected. But for the moment, people maybe are thinking that that's not my portion.
Nigerians,
I need to go out.
We're too religious. We believe that it's not my portion, God forbid, and all of this. Yes. But
there still is some merit in what is being expressed. But the only point that I wanted to inject in there is that you're doing yourself the bigger favor,
yes,
rather than
and your family,
and
yes. You see, our health sector. I beg to, I stand corrected. The issues around our health sector didn't just start today. We've had this issue of medical tourism. We've had our leaders leaving the country to go take care of themselves before now. And even people die of malaria even here, not to talk of COVID-19 and what we are having at hand at the moment. So I think it's an institutionalized problem. It's something that ought to have been attended to before now. It's not just a, in quote, not just this administration's
because people
fault.
have referred to the situation as the chickens now coming home to roost. Now, no matter how big a man you are, as we say locally, big man,
you can't go anywhere.
You can't go anywhere. Now people are saying, Lagos, please, take me to Lagos. If only we had built the capacity. And that's part of the problem that the situation that Ehis was recounting.
Yes.
Look, there is stuff, equipment, the testing equipment, ventilators when needed, if they are needed, and all of that, that it's going to be a big challenge. And he just was hoping, as all of us are, somehow or the other, we will be able to stay on top of this, because the last thing we need is for it to run away from us. We have Sam on the line. Good morning, Mr. Sam.
Morning.
Okay, go right ahead, please. You're on now.
Hello, can you hear me?
We can. Please go ahead.
Okay. I just want to make a contribution in the report. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Well, please, I saw some adverts this morning, report over how government can help the farmers. After people who are making a complaint, people who are making the possibility government to maybe pay into people's account now, the people is not doing. But I'm just like saying, during election, you know how to read these people. they know how to survive these people and these type of people. At this point in time, but Nigeria needed them more. Why they not find a way to reach out to this person, to reach out to the masses, to show at least, yes, they have our heart in their own mind. That's what I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, you know, whereas I can understand it, but with keeping our eye on the ball, focusing, we have to join efforts and do everything that we can to help the whole government initiative.
Yes.
Yeah, people are saying, aha, it is now that we understand.
Diversification,
yes,
and all of this. We need oil to diversify. Diversification is a process. It's not something that is done overnight. It's a process that has to start from somewhere, and that is why we had the Economic Recovery and Growth Plan, which is a document that government is supposed to work with. Yes, looks very ambitious. The figures looks very, 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 very beautiful when you look at it. Beautiful document. But implementation is something that is very, very important. Now, for us to make our refineries work, we saw what's been happening over the years. Turnaround maintenance, billions of dollars keep going down the drain, and we don't see anything come out of it. And government now looked at, okay, what do we do? They pushed it to a private sector player. Okay, this Dangote refinery, you can do this. Central Bank is going to give you so amount. And we can see what's playing out. 650,000 barrels of crude per day will be refined in that facility along Lekki. Now, if that comes on stream and starts production, and we ignore our own refineries, one way or the other, there's going to be a positive for Nigeria. But I think it's going to be a wake-up call for NNPC to also know that we need to do something. If we're going to privatize this refineries, if we're going to let it go, if we're going to liberalize it, whatever word they want to use, they should use. But I don't think for crude oil to go down as low as $5, that would be a very bad one for Nigeria. Okay. I'm going back to that.
The comment of Ehis.
It won't be funny at all because as a country, we don't have what to fall back to at the moment. Agriculture is not yet there. We are just trying to make agricultural mechanized, make it attractive for young ones to come in. We are not yet there when it comes to that.
You know, and this is all about planning. It goes back to planning because if everybody had got the leg up that COVID-19 was going to hit in 2 years' time or 5 years' time, like in biblical times where prophets were able to say, do what you can do because in 5 years' time, whether you like it or not. So we're going back to planning. Now, this is going to force us, hopefully, that now that we've seen this, nobody was thinking of COVID-19. Now we're scrambling a bit. Maybe you can't blame anybody for not having thought of COVID-19, but I think the line has been drawn that now look at the state of our healthcare. Look at the state of our health institutions. We're actually scrambling, and we could have done a lot better, but at that time they thought it wasn't a priority.
Yes.
We have an opportunity now perhaps to reprioritize, you know, what the things that are important to us.
Yes, and even if we go back to 2015, the first tenure of this administration, if you look at the price of crude as at that time, crude was over $120 before this administration came in, and it dropped drastically immediately it came in. So it's been from one problem to another. So
but we never knew it could get this bad to sub $20. So let me bring in Mr. Okoro in Abuja. Good morning, sir. Mr. Okoro in Abuja?
Yeah, hello.
Hello. Go ahead, please. You're on now.
Yes, please. I want to make a contribution on. First of all, I thank you for the program. All of you in the studio.
Thank you.
Yes. Please, my contribution is on the price of things. You know, because of this COVID-19. It's really, I'm really, in fact, I shed tears, on the attitude of our people. I don't know why we should leverage on our difficulty to create more difficulty. You understand me? Like my very self. When somebody called me and was telling me that the Gary they used to buy 500 naira, he sold at 1,500 naira. It is very terrible. So we have to work on the attitude of our people. We don't have to make money in an emergency case like this. This is a thing of a matter of life and death. So our people, we need a proper orientation. Do you understand me?
Thank you very much.
We need proper orientation so that we have to know how to, do things right.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Okolo. Sorry for mispronouncing it as Mr. Okolo earlier. Mr. Okolo, it's the point that you made earlier.
Attitude will now change. We
Yes.
need to understand each other, don't take advantage of ourselves.
It's interesting. People are imagining that they can go on profiteering like this because they're going to be around to enjoy the proceeds of their profiteering. Okay, wish you luck. That's what you're assuming. People are not seeing it that you have to be a brother's keeper, and in any case, the way people are going, the way we are going here, where we're not taking due care, who knows tomorrow? So it's pathetic, as you had said, and as Mr. Okolo was now saying, people just milking the situation, not being their brother's keeper, stock that you already had, because of the situation, you double, you triple its price. What can we do apart from appeal to people?
Just like the price of fuel. If it's increased when you go to the station the next 10 minutes, the meters have been changed. But if it's reduced, you need enforcement before you see people sticking to the new prices.
Yes.
So you see,
the engineers have not come.
We just need to do things right.
Okay, let me take Femi in Belgium. Good morning, sir.
Yeah, good morning, sir.
Thank you very much for coming, calling in.
Yeah, concerning the COVID-19 and the reaction of Nigerians.
Sure.
I think it's a pity that Nigerians don't take their life very seriously. First of all,
we do, but I understand your meaning.
Saying that the government is not doing anything. But John F. Kennedy said, ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country. These people that are saying government is not doing anything, are they paying their taxes? Europeans also don't hand over money to everybody. They are not registered.
I think we lost that line. But the point he made in there, remember the GFK quote, ask not what your country can do, but what you can do. Well, it's in line with the thought we were.
It is. At this time, as we continue to try to contain this deadly virus, I think we, like the presidential committee or the task force speaking yesterday, they said it has to be a joint fight. We have to come together as one at this time. I'm not too worried that in another 2-3 weeks, I believe that we should be able to manage this because we know the number of people that came in, we know where they've been. Contact tracing won't be very easy, yes, we know. But at least if we can get some of these people, we'll be able to link up and continue to link up if we come together. And if you notice anything, because I also saw a video and I heard it was people around the area that raised the alarm when they maybe continuous coughing and all of that at the particular house. It was online. So I think we as Nigerians have to stand up and let people know that this is our fight. We need to win this fight against COVID-19. Like some people say, it's an imported pandemic. It came into the country, but one way or the other, it's here, and we have to fight it. And fighting it is doing what is right.
Indeed.
Whichever way, if you sell, if you're a business person, try to be fair to yourself. That's what I just see at this time.
Okay, Mr. Olushola in Kaduna, we're squeezing you in very briefly, please. Mr. Olushola. We lost Mr. Olushola there. So we got to, as you were saying, we can't overstate the point.
Yes.
We're going to have to leave it here. And also remember the very ordinary, they're also the most important, soap and water.
Yes.
Be safe, because people going around and, if you want, exploiting their neighbors, exploiting their customers. Look, while we're addressing all of that, can you just be safe, please, and wash your hands with soap and water, even if they have increase the price of
soap.
Of the hand sanitizer. At least nobody has increased the price of soap.
I don't think so.
And in any case, soap, if it's not Omo, it will be bath soap. If it's not bath soap, it will be dishwashing.
Yeah.
You are not in shortage of
Just
soap.
wash for 20 seconds.
Just go ahead and wash for 20 seconds. Somebody said, sing happy birthday in your mind, twice. And that's about 20 seconds.
That's it.
Well, that's our program today. Thank you very much for joining us, and to the callers, and indeed to Mr. Johnson Chukwu that called in, and indeed to our reporters out there who are, putting themselves on the front line alongside all the other professionals just to bring us the news. And thank you too, as always, Tolu, for coming on. That's our program.
Great to be here.
Please join us tomorrow for a fresh edition. I'm Yori Folari. Be safe.